A very good morning to you all. So, in our last class, we have seen some of the discussion on this network security subject. Okay, basically, we discussed course outcomes. Okay, for the after the completion of this network security course, what outcomes you will gain from this course that we discussed, that we studied in our last class, and also we have seen the complete curriculum. I mean, how this syllabus is framed from the university, and what topics we are going to discuss throughout this semester. All those things we discussed in our uh, last class, and I have also suggested some of the books uh, which you can refer, which you can uh, go through in order to complete this subject. Okay, basically our subject name, it is network security and cryptography. So with the help of this cryptography only, we'll achieve the network security. So these two things, these two terms, they are quite interrelated. So this cryptography, it is a different concept, and with which only we are going to achieve the uh, network security. So we'll discuss in detail about what is cryptography and what is network security, the definition for these two terms, and we'll go to the internal topics like yeah, inside this cryptography. So we said it is a combination of two different processes, like your encryption and decryption. So we'll see in detail what is encryption, and when we study about this encryption, in it we have different terminologies like the key, the plain text, the ciphertext. All those things we'll see in detail, and also it is a combination of decryption. So basically, we say cryptography. It is a combination of two different processes. One is encryption, and the other one is decryption. So encryption, when you perform, suppose if you are going in this way, so decryption, you when you perform, you will go in the opposite direction. So these two processes, they are quite similar but opposite in nature. So you have to understand this one. Encryption, how we are performing, in exactly opposite way will perform the decryption. Okay, so these two are interrelated processes once again. Okay, so we'll enter into your syllabus, your subject. So first we'll see the introduction to this cryptography. We'll discuss first cryptography, then we see how we are going to achieve the security to our network with the help of this cryptography. So as you can see over here in these slides, so this cryptography, it is a combination of two different things or two different approaches. So the first area, which is cryptographic algorithms and protocols. So these are the procedures. These are the procedures through which we are achieving the security. So basically, in order to provide the security to a particular room, or to provide the security to a particular asset, what we do, we follow a procedure, isn't it? Suppose if you have some gold or something and you want to provide the security, basically what we do, we'll put that gold into a locker, and we'll lock that locker, and put that key in a safe place, or give that key to a trusted person. So in that same way, whenever we want to perform, or whenever we want to achieve security to our network or to our IT infrastructure, what methodologies we follow, what algorithms, because it is not something like gold, isn't it? It is completely public in nature, because our IT infrastructure, it is connected to the global world with the help of internet, isn't it? With the help of internet, what we are doing, we are connecting our IT infrastructure to the global world, where our internal network, it is prone to threats. It is prone to threats. So how we are going to provide the security to our IT infrastructure, that is the concept of network security, or we can say cryptography. Using this cryptography only, we are going to provide the security to our network or to our messages. Basically, whenever we do the transmission of our messages, they are prone to threats, they are prone to hackers. So with the help of these cryptographic algorithms, we are going to provide the security, we are going to provide a kind of protection to our messages. Okay, that is our first focus or main area, we can say. And the other one, the network or the internet security, which depends on the cryptographic techniques. As I said, first we have to achieve the cryptography, but first we have to know what is cryptography. Because of this cryptographic algorithms only, we are achieving the network or internet security. So these two things, as they are quite interrelated to one another, so first we study about these cryptographic algorithms and some of the protocols associated with it. So based on these cryptographic algorithms and based on these network protocols only, we are achieving the security. We are achieving the security. This thing we are achieving. Clear? So whether it is in terms of internet or whether it is in terms of network, how we are achieving in the sense with the help of cryptographic algorithms. So they plays a vital role in our syllabus. They plays a vital role in our syllabus, and throughout our semester, throughout our syllabus, we are going to discuss only these things in detail. Only cryptographic algorithms in detail. Okay, so these cryptographic algorithms, they are grouped under four main areas. Okay, all the cryptographic algorithms, whatever we have, whatever under usage in the world, they are broadly grouped under four main areas. So the first area we call it as symmetric encryption, then we have asymmetric encryption, and finally data integrity algorithms and authentication protocols. These four things, okay, they are our cryptographic algorithms. They are broadly categorized or broadly grouped under these four types. So we have to discuss one by one in detail, so to know how these algorithms will work and how these algorithms are functional in order to provide the security to our messages or in order to provide the security to our networks. Clear? So we'll do that. So before proceeding, we have to know, see here, whenever we are saying cryptography and whenever we are saying cryptographic algorithm, we are referring to the term encryption only. We are not referring the term decryption, isn't it? We are not referring the term decryption. The reason it is very simple. See, cryptography, it is a combination of two different processes. Just now I have told you it is a combination of two different processes, encryption as well as, or else I will take what we call this whiteboard application I will open. So with the help of that we will understand. Yeah, here, so we have the term cryptography. We have the term cryptography. So we said cryptography is nothing but it is a combination of two different processes. So we have encryption and we have decryption here. But as far as the term, as far as the algorithm is concerned, we are saying those algorithms, whatever algorithms we discuss under this cryptography concept, we are calling those algorithms as only encryption algorithms. We call them as encryption algorithms. Does it mean that we are not performing the decryption? No, it doesn't mean. The reason for calling them as encryption is because once you do the encryption, the decryption is quite opposite to it, isn't it? Simply when we are studying about an cryptographic algorithm, what we have to study? We have to study the process of encryption, how we are performing the encryption. And what we do in decryption, it is exactly opposite to encryption. So that is the reason why the first term encryption is gaining the priority, and we are calling all the cryptographic algorithms as encryption algorithms only. Nowhere we talk about decryption algorithms, because decryption ultimately we perform at the receiver end, and it is exactly opposite to your encryption algorithm. So whenever you have, see, the sender will be sending the messages. So I'm considering this as my sender. So here this PC, I'm considering this PC as my sender PC, and receiver will be somewhere in the world, isn't it? Somewhere in the connected world. So we call this as the receiver. So what is the functionality of sender? What job the sender will do means he will generate a message. He will generates a message. So let us assume this is his message. So this is the message. I'm writing here message. Okay. So afterwards, what he will do with this message, in the sense, he will perform the encryption. He will perform the encryption on this message. Encryption is nothing but scrambling or making the message unreadable. Making the message unreadable. After performing the encryption, he will get the ciphertext. So after encryption, he will get the ciphertext that I will write over here, cipher. So this cipher, what we do? We transmit this cipher over the public network. So let us say this is my public network, okay, public channel, okay, through which I am going to transmit the message. Through which I am going to transmit the message. So this is my public channel. So public channel is nothing but your internet. What is this public channel? Your internet. So through the internet, what we are doing, we are transmitting our ciphertext. So this ciphertext, it is also going to be in the form of message only. It is also in the form of message only. That message we transmit. So over here, when you are performing the encryption, we follow the encryption algorithms over here. Okay, we follow any of the encryption algorithm at this stage, at this encryption stage. After performing the encryption, we transmit that ciphertext. So message, apply the encryption algorithm, get the ciphertext, transmit that ciphertext to the receiver over the public network. This internet, how it will be in nature? This internet, how it will be in nature? It is completely public, isn't it? Internet is public. Anybody can connect to the internet, and anybody can access the data from the internet. So when your message is on the internet, it is prone to threat. It is prone to threats. Already we know what are threats. They are the difficulties in the network. They are the difficulties in the network. So they are some what we call them as hackers, or we have different entities to which we refer as threats. Very soon we are going to discuss in detail about these threats as well. So they are our public network. Our public network, it is completely prone to threats, isn't it? Our public network is having threats. So that threats will be present inside your internet. So what we have to do in order to overcome with this message, with these threats, is we have to create the ciphertext for our regular message. So that ciphertext can be transmitted over the network to the receiver. So receiver, what he will do, he will receive the message, isn't it? Once the message is transmitted in the sense over the network, in the sense, he will receives the message. So that message receival here I am showing. Okay, so that message receival here I am showing. So message, what message he will receive? Again, he will receive the ciphertext only, because the sender has transmitted the ciphertext. The sender is not transmitting the actual message. He is transmitting the ciphertext only. That ciphertext will be received by the receiver. So what receiver will do with this ciphertext means, he will apply the decryption algorithm to it. Okay. apply the decryption algorithm on it. So he will apply decryption process. He will apply the decryption, and after performing the decryption, what he will get, again he will get the actual message. He will get the actual message. Okay, this phenomenon or this process you have to understand thoroughly. If you have any kinds of doubt in this particular thing, you can ask at any time. So this may be not visible to you, so what I will do is this message and everything I will write over here. So after performing the decryption, what he will get, he will get the actual message. So that actual message here I am drawing. So this actual message, after applying the decryption on the ciphertext, the receiver will get the message. So this entire process, first what we study about this encryption. So in this encryption process, we are going to make use of an important term called key. So this key management is also a concept of our study. So this key management, what type of key we have to select, what size of key we have to select, all those things we study under this key management. Okay. So key management, it is also an important concept. It is also an important study that we will do in our syllabi. So in our PPTs, if you see, so symmetric key encryption algorithms, when we apply in the sense, generally whenever you have uh, a, a message or data to be transmitted is of any size, means size is not the limitation. If you have the data or if you have the message where size is not the limitation, if size is not if size is not a limit, which means that you can transmit only 200 MB of data with the help of this algorithm, or you can transmit only 100 MB of data, 100 KB of data with the help of this algorithm. Like that, if you don't have the size restriction, then you go for symmetric encryption. Something in bulk, something in blocks, or something in streams you want to transmit, then you go for this symmetric encryption process where size is not the limitation. And what message generally we transmit, what message generally we encrypt with the help of this symmetric encryption, in the sense, example, let us say if you have a regular message, a regular text message of bulk in size, to transmit, we make use of these symmetric encryption algorithms. Or if you have something like files, okay, files of very large sizes, and if you want to transmit those large files encrypted or confidentially from source to destination, we apply the symmetric encryption because size is not the limitation. And we can even we can even use we can even transmit encryption keys. The need for transmitting the encryption keys, very soon you will understand. So not only the messages, not only the files, but also we can transmit the encryption keys as well as some of the passwords. Suppose if you want to transmit your password to your friend, so definitely you cannot send that password if it is of your banking password or if it is of your email ID password, then you cannot simply transmit that password open to the world, isn't it, using the internet, isn't it? So definitely what we have to do, we have to encrypt that data and we have to use an application. Whenever you are transmitting that message, you have to use an application which is following the encryption, isn't it? So you might have seen this message in your WhatsApp. So whenever you are transmitting your first message to your recipient, you will get this message. Your message is protected by end-to-end encryption, or something kind of message you will see over there. What does it mean? What does it means exactly? In the sense, whatever message you are transmitting using that channel, using that WhatsApp, it is completely protected. Your network, your communication, it is completely protected. Okay, so in that sense only we have to transmit the messages. So asymmetric key encryption, when we use, means when size is the limitation, when size is the limitation, we use this asymmetric encryptions. So where the size is going to play a limit means, suppose if you have very small amount of data to be transmitted, then go for this asymmetric encryption process. Like again, encryption keys, they are smaller in size, so in order to transmit the keys you can use the asymmetric key encryption algorithms, asymmetric encryption algorithms. Okay, we have hash functions. Okay, these hash functions also a process of encryption only. Using hash functions also we are going to perform the encryption. So generally after performing the encryption, we have to send that hash function to our recipient so that he can perform the decryption. So when you are sending hash function or when you are sending the keys to your recipients, use this asymmetric key encryption algorithms. So data integrity algorithms we have. And whenever data integrity of the data means whatever data you have at the sender end, the same data you have to get at the receiver end. So there should not be any change in the data whatever you are sending. So if that is our criterion, if that is our primary importance, then go for data integrity algorithms. Integrity in the sense no change. Whatever data you are sending, the same data the receiver will receive. There is a guarantee that the same data the receiver will receive. So if that is your criterion, if that is of importance, then go for data integrity algorithms. Then we have these authentication protocols. So in order to design the cryptographic algorithms, in order to authenticate the cryptographic algorithms, we use this authentication protocol. So these four are the broad categories of your encryption algorithms. So you have to understand and you have to remember these four thoroughly. Okay, so quickly I will summarize once again. When the data size is not limited, we'll go for symmetric algorithms, and when data size is limited, when the message size is limited, we go for asymmetric key algorithms. Then if data integrity is an important criterion, then we go for data integrity algorithms. And finally, in order to authenticate the algorithms, in order to provide a kind of security to your algorithms, okay, cryptographic algorithms, so we go for this authentication protocols. So these four are the broad areas, these four are the major areas under this cryptography will study one by one. Okay, so as we said, our categorization, how it has been done, the study of cryptography, it is broadly categorized under two. And then we discussed cryptographic algorithms. These cryptographic algorithms, they are categorized under four. Then this network and internet security, see, the field of network and internet security consists of measures. So basically here we take the measures to discourage. So what to discourage? Security violations. What we have to discourage? We have to discourage the security violations in transmission. So generally whenever you transmit the data, there is a possibility of security violations. So what we have to do? We have to discourage and we have to prevent, we have to detect and we have to correct these security violations. What we have to do in the sense, for these security violations, first of all we have to discourage. I mean, we should not entertain any security violations in our transmission of information. We should not encourage, we should not give any loopholes in our security model so that these security violations are going to be entertained. If your security model is very poor, if you're not providing what we call a perfect, a robust security model, then what will happen? Automatically it will be encouraged, security violations will be encouraged. So what we have to do? We have to discourage the security violations. That means we have to provide a security model where these security violations are completely discouraged. They are not entertained at all. Then preventing. So completely block. We have to completely block the security violations. Not only discourage, we have to block the security violations. Then detect. If there are any security violations, immediately what we have to do? We have to detect those security violations. quickly we have to, by applying some measures or by applying some tests, we have to detect those security violations, and we have to correct those security violations. If there are some loopholes, if there are some errors in your security model, what we have to do, we have to correct. If there are errors, what will happen? Security violations will be entertained. So simply discourage those security violations, prevent those security violations. If there are any security violations, immediately detect those security violations and take the corrective measures in order to stop those security violations. And where these things, where these security violations will occur or come across, in the sense in transmission of information. Whenever you are transmitting some valuable information through the internet, there is a possibility of security violations, and we have to do these four things whenever there are security violations. Okay, so the field of cryptography, these four, and the field of network and internet security, we have to avoid the security violations. Then quickly we see the definition of our computer security. We have two important definitions for this computer security, network security, information security, whatever you say. So just the terms, the terminologies will change in this definition. Okay, the terminologies will change in this definition, but the definition will remain the same. Okay, we have to avoid the theft of our data, theft of our information, theft of our IT infrastructure. So by applying the security, we can achieve that one, isn't it? It is very simple. It is very simple as we are thinking. Just we have to pay a little bit of effort in order to understand this syllabus. And moreover, I forgot to tell you that this network security and cryptography, it is completely a theory subject. Completely a theory subject. Nowhere we are going to have any kind of programming stuff, nothing. Simply what we do means we'll try to analyze. We have certain algorithms, and those algorithms they have already implemented. We are not going to implement any algorithm, or we are not going to research any particular thing. If you have a kind of interest that you can do as part of your project work, or as part of your what we call that internship kind of thing. But over here, whatever syllabus, whatever curriculum we are going to discuss as part of this OU, Usmania University standards, we are not going to do any practical work under this network security subject. We have completely theory subject, and you are going to get 3 credits if you successfully complete this theory subject. So as it is a theory subject, it is very easy to understand. A minimum effort, a minimum what we call attention is quite enough to understand this subject. So whenever we are defining this computer security, the term it is to what we are providing, in the sense automated information in the sense the information which is standard alone, the information which is not connected to any other thing, the information which is not dependent on any other thing. So such type of information we call it as automated information. So in order to, yes, basically what we do under this computer security, in the sense we provide security to an automated information. Okay, in order to preserve, what we have to preserve, this CIA. Okay, we have very important term, this CIA, and throughout this semester many times during the delivery of this subject, many times I am going to use this term CIA. So C stands for confidentiality, I stands for integrity, and A stands for availability of information system resources. So whenever we are providing the security to our automated information, security we can provide by simply keeping the data inside a pen drive, isn't it? Keep the data inside a pen drive and keep that pen drive always with you. Does it mean that we have to provide such a security to come to the complete infrastructure, complete IT infrastructure? No, it is meaningless. Storing the data in a pen drive and keeping that pen drive with you and making that pen drive of no use, it is something like a what we call a ridiculous act, isn't it? It is completely a ridiculous act. Whenever you have certain information, whenever you have certain valuable data with you, it should be productive. It should be productive. It should be usable by some authenticated persons. So let us assume that we have our college data. So definitely we are going to have some valuable information, some confidential information in that data, in that college data. So can we copy that complete college data into a pen drive or into an hard disk, and we store that hard disk in a safe place, in a bank account or bank locker? Does it mean that we are providing the security to that data? No. Yes, of course, physically we are providing the security to that data, but which is of no use. We are not getting any productivity from that data. We are simply storing that data in a safe place. So storing the data in a safe place and not getting the productivity from it, it is completely ridiculous act. It is completely meaningless act. Isn't it? Whenever you have some valuable information with you, whenever you have some valuable data with you, it should be productive. So what we do, we install the data in our IT infrastructure. We'll install a server in our college and we put that data, complete data, into that server, and we take security measures so that unauthorized people should not access that data. Isn't it? We take security measures so that unauthorized people should not access that data. This kind of providing security, this way of providing security, we call it as computer security. Computer security doesn't mean that storing the data in a safe place, isn't it? Computer security, it means the data should be productive and you have to provide the security to that data. Okay, the data should be active, the data should be in use, and you have to provide the security to that data. Then only we call that mechanism as a computer security mechanism. So our major concerns whenever we are providing the security to our data, our major concerns are confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the information system resources. So, what is confidentiality? What is integrity? What is availability? In turn, we will discuss. So, this is one part. This is one kind of definition. And the other definition, we have different information resources, isn't it? Like hardware, software, firmware, and the data which is stored in that firmwares, and the telecommunication. Telecommunication, basically why we are using internet, isn't it? It is a kind of telecommunication. In order to communicate, in order to share the data from one place to another place, we use this telecommunication. Clear? We use this telecommunication. So one by one, hopefully you understood. So we have telecommunication, and what is information and what is data, we already know. What is firmwares, we know. What is hardware and what is software, I no need to define these things. So when we are saying information system resources, information resources over here in this first definition, when I am saying information resources, what exactly I mean by these information resources, that I am explaining over here. My resources, which includes not only the data and information, it also includes hardware, software, firmware, telecommunication, everything, isn't it? Because there are threats to hardware as well. What they do, they will send a virus or they will send a worm to your computer. If you click that worm or if you open that worm inside your computer, what will happen? They will damage your hard disks, they will damage your random access memory, they will damage your Windows operating system. Like this it will happen. They will damage your firmwares. If you have any kind of application running, an important application running under your computer, definitely it is going to have a firmware with it, isn't it? It will damage those firmwares. A virus or a worm or any what we say malicious software or malicious data downloaded to your computer, it can damage any of these things. So all these things we refer them as information resources. So we should provide security to these information resources. Okay, so that mechanism only we call it as computer security. Providing the security, providing the what we call protectiveness to these information resources is nothing but computer security. Hope you got the definition. Just remember the CIA: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So as the definition, whatever we discussed in our previous slide, it has introduced three key objectives. Three key objectives. Those are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We also call them as CIA traits. CIA traits. C stands for confidentiality, I stands for integrity, and A stands for availability. So, what is confidentiality in the sense? The information, it should not be disclosed to the unauthorized individuals or unauthorized persons. If you have some valuable information in your IT infrastructure, it should be protected in such a way that only the authorized persons can access that information. So confidentiality is very simple to understand. I have some valuable information in my mobile phone. So what I will do, I will put a lock to that to that phone. So putting the lock is nothing but providing a kind of security, isn't it? Giving a kind of security to my phone. So after keeping that lock, only I can access, isn't it? Only I can access. So I am the trusted party or authorized party. If I feel that my close friend can also access my phone, so what I will do, I will provide the key to him. Whatever key I'm using to lock my phone, the same key I will provide to my friend so that he can also open my phone and so that he can also access my phone. Why I am giving my key to him? Because I am trusting him. I am considering him as an authorized individual, not as an unauthorized individual, but as an authorized individual. So we have to disclose our valuable information, our confidential information, our private information only to the authorized persons. Only to the authorized persons. So this type of phenomenon we call it as confidentiality. Clear? Confidentiality means disclose the valuable information only to authorized persons. Disclose the valuable information or confidential information only to the authorized peoples, and it should not be disclosed to unauthorized personal or unauthorized individual. Such a security or such a phenomenon we call it as confidentiality. Very simple, confidentiality. Then what is integrity? Yes, whatever data you have, whatever information you have, it should be changed by only authorized persons. Only authorized persons. Only authorized persons can change my valuable information or confidential information. Such a thing we call it as data integrity. Once again, I will give the examples so that you can understand these things clearly. Okay, so uh, just now I have given the example for confidentiality, that is nothing but protecting the phone with any type of key or any type of lock, virtual lock, and providing that key only to my close friend is nothing but giving a kind of confidentiality to our information. Giving a personal kind of confidentiality to our information. Then integrity, suppose if you have a company, generally what the companies will do means uh, they will file tenders to the government, isn't it? They will file tenders to the government. So let us assume that a tender has to be filed by some company X. Okay, so we have a company X which is filing a tender to the government. So basically what that tender is going to have means a tender figure, a tender amount, isn't it? Because based on the tender amount only, uh, the government will select the company for the project. Okay, the lowest the tender amount, the easiest it will become for a company, the government will select that company, isn't it? So what the job of the company is, it has to gain the profit and it has to file the tender amount least as possible. Okay, so we can even file the tender as 1 rupee, isn't it? So that will become least only. So is it legitimate? Is it justified? It is not. If you file the tender amount 1 rupee, definitely the government will select your company. But in that 1 rupee only, you have to lay the road or you have to build a building something, isn't it? So it is completely not legitimate. So what we have to do, we have to file the tender amount so that the project has to be completed and you also have to gain the profit. So that is the reason why whatever tender amounts we are filing, it should be confidential. It should be secure. So let us say I'm filing some 10,000 rupees as my tender amount to the government. So this 1,000 rupees is my tender amount that I am going to file to the government. And who will have the authority to change this tender amount? Only the white collar people or the manager level people in my company. They have the authority to change this tender amount. Can a labor, can a C grade person can come and change this tender amount? Means no, he cannot change. Not even he can see that tender amount, because there is a possibility that he is going to disclose the tender amount to some to my rival company. So I have to take care of that thing. So this tender amount, it has to be changed only by the authorized people, specified or authorized people. So that kind of phenomenon, we call it as integrity. The integrity will guarantee that the confidential information will be changed by only the authorized people. It will not be changed by any unauthorized people. That is what integrity. Now, hopefully, you understood. Next is availability. It assures that the resources, whatever system, whatever services you have, they deny the access to unauthorized users. They deny the access to unauthorized users. It can be understand very easily. You can understand this one. Suppose I have a company and suppose I have a laptop and I have provided some password to it. So all the resources, all the services which I have inside my laptop, they are available only to the authorized people. The persons, those who have the password, only they can come and they can use the laptop. If a person, a third party, is coming to my laptop and trying to get into my laptop, simply my laptop, what it will do, it will deny his access. So such a denial, we call it as availability of the resources. Availability of the resources only to the authorized persons. Clear? So CIA traits, they are very simple to understand: confidentiality, integrity, availability. These three things you have to understand. So confidentiality, it assures that private or confidential data, it should not be disclosed to unauthorized individuals. Integrity, the data, the confidential data, it has to be changed only by the authorized people. And availability, whatever infrastructure, whatever IT resources you have to give the access only to the authorized people. And unauthorized people, they have to get the denial of service. Okay, this denial of service, again a new term in our terminology that very soon we will discuss. Okay, so quickly we'll go to two more. So after the CIA, okay, whatever CIA we discussed, CIA trades we discussed, okay, some professionals, they thought that the CIA trades also not sufficient. So whatever we defined, the computer security, the network security, the information security, so far we said if you provide the CIA to your data, to your information, you will achieve the security. You will achieve the security, isn't it? But there are some professionals, there are some network security professionals, they thought that Even providing the CIA traits to your data is not sufficient. You have to go with these two. Okay, authenticity as well as accountability. You have to look for not only CIA traits, additionally, you have to look for authenticity as well as accountability. So, what is authenticity in the sense? The property of being genuine. Okay, so whatever information, whatever data I'm giving to you, how far it is genuine, how far it is authenticated. Okay, what I have to do on the, suppose you are writing a letter that let us assume that you our HOD, we have the department head, and you want to get a 1 day leave. Okay, 1 day leave of your classwork. Then what you will do, basically you will write a letter to your HOD that because of so and so reason I may not be able to attend the college on so and so date. You are giving that letter to your HOD, and your HOD is seeing that letter and returning that letter to you. What does it mean? Is he authenticated that letter? No. So as part of the authentication, what he will do? Generally, he will put his signature, his initial on that letter. So when he is keeping that signature on the letter, your letter will become authenticated, isn't it? Your letter will become authenticated. It shows that your HOD has verified that letter, and he has given the trust on that letter by keeping the signature on it, isn't it? By keeping the signature on it. So that signature indicates that your HOD is well aware that you are not attending the college on so and so date, isn't it? So in that sense, the authenticity has to be provided. Yani, there should be a third party, or there should be a third person, or the owner itself has to authenticate the information, the data, whatever you are securing. Clear? The property of being genuine or being able to be verified or trusted. So this kind of phenomenon we call it as authenticity. Next is accountability. See, uh, a truly secure system, it is an hypothesis. It is an hypothesis. If it is practically possible to achieve a truly secure system, there will not be any hacks, there will not be any threats, there will not be any viruses, there will not be any malicious files, there will not be any worms, Trojan horse kind of things, isn't it? So, achieving completely or a truly secure system, it is an hypothesis. So, accountability in the sense, suppose you are downloading an antivirus software in order to provide the security to your computer, then who has to be accountable for your system means the antivirus from where you are subscribing your antivirus software, the antivirus company from where you are subscribing your antivirus software. Okay, so when you are purchasing an antivirus application for your computer, the company, the antivirus company is accountable, okay, for your information. If any kind of security breaches, if any kind of irresponsible thing has happened on your computer, then who has to pay for that? The accountable people has to pay for that. The antivirus people has to pay for that. So in that way, the what we call network security professionals, they thought that not only CIA traits, but we have to go for these two additional types of what we call security mechanisms, that is authenticity as well as accountability. Okay, so in our next class, we'll discuss about what type of network attacks we can expect into our security model. Okay, so we'll proceed in that way. So attendance, as I said, it is mandatory for this class. Whenever I am going to uh, premiere, or whenever I am going to live stream this particular video, definitely you have to attend this video and you have to post your attendance. And we are going to consider your attendance only when you post the attendance on the streaming time. Once the streaming is stopped, or once the live chat is stopped, we know we're going to consider your attendance. Okay, keep in mind that we are considering only live chat attendance, and once the video ends, the live chat ends, and nowhere we are going to consider your attendance, hopefully. Thank you, students. The rest of the concepts, as I said, the security attacks we'll see in our next class. Thank you very much.